Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is the Kingsburg Finance Committee, and I will call this meeting to order. Our first item is public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in public comment? Seeing none, I will move on to regular business. Our first item is to approve the minutes from the April 27th, 2026 regular meeting. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is fiscal year 25-26 year-end budget adjustments with a staff report by Finance Director Alma Collado.
Good evening, Finance Committee members. Included in your packet are the year-to-date revenue and expenditure numbers for fiscal year 25-26. We review account line items that require adjustment action by the City Council. And tonight we have 68 end-of-the-year budget adjustments that need to be addressed to provide the necessary paper trail to our auditors to examine appropriation changes. The recommended action for the Finance Committee tonight is to review the proposed amendments and recommend necessary amendments to the City Council. And with your packet, we are recommending 35 budget adjustments to expenditure line items that are necessary to reflect the actual costs for salaries, medical expenses, professional services, capital outlay expenses, and overtime for the fire department to assist in the wildfires. They are pretty much several of the adjustments that I mentioned. And if you have any questions on any of those, we can go over. But then we can continue to the 33 budget adjustments that are being recommended for the revenue line items. And those are because we are increasing the anticipated revenues to reflect actual revenues received. And we can go over the ones that did not come in higher revenue. There's only a few that we are reducing the revenue. If you go to recommended revenue items, we can go start with number 6. And for the general fund, the solar energy rebate, the amendment is necessary to reflect that there are no rebate implemented in this fiscal year. The project will be completed and the rebate will be submitted in fiscal year 27. Then we can move to adjustment number 11. This is a transfer that we anticipated when we processed the budget from our general fund balance to assist the budget. And now the revenues came up higher than anticipated, and the adjustment is not necessary. For the adjustment number 12, we're reducing the revenue anticipated because after invoicing the Kingsburg High School for our JPA pool reimbursements, there's 20,000 less than what we anticipated. And we are reviewing the invoices with Adam to project in the future closer to actuals. Then we can go to number 19. This is for Measure E interest. We are coming really low than anticipated interest on this fund. So we're reducing the revenue by $7,485. Budget adjustment number 28 and 29. So since we changed our billing for the water fund water sales, we created 2 accounts now to separate the consumption than the base rate. And we're reducing one line item. We used to combine them or had only one line item, and now we created 2. And revenues are higher, but we are keeping them into separate how we build to be similar than how we build. And the last water sales consumption, and then also the number 28, water fund solar energy rebate. This amendment is not necessary in this fiscal year 26 because the project will be completed and the rebate will be submitted and received in fiscal year 27. This is pretty much all that adjustments that are reflecting different than what we anticipated with the budget. But if you have any questions, we can go over any adjustment. No?
I
So-
have, okay, quick question.
Okay.
Can you provide some clarification on item number 3?
Of the
That,
expenses or revenues?
expenditures.
Expenditures?
So non-department transfer to other funds.
Okay, so we have several funds that we had in the system with our budgets. It seemed like we had in our books several funds keeping track of our payments for the bonds. Now, the payment is already in for the RDA when we had the redevelopment agency. Those funds were just keeping track of the residual for making payments to the bonds, and there's hasn't been activity in more than a decade. And what we're doing in this year is transferring those, clearing those funds and moving the funds to general fund and as revenue transfer and also expense. So you will see a transfer and the revenue, let's see. Number 10 is also moving the revenue due to those transfers. So there was balances seating and the fund balance, positive fund balances, but we got to move them as a transfer and expenditure and revenue to now combine them all in general fund because we don't have any activity on those funds. We haven't had activity in years.
So it's all the RDA funds? That's all?
No, in the bonds. Before they refinanced the bond, they had different accounts for 1991-1, all those revenue funds, they were created separately and they refinance it. When they refinance it, they create only one account, 750. And back then, I believe they were recording it broken down for what is it, program, and those revenue fund, the bond that we had, it was broken down by area, 1991-1, 2, and they had like 6 areas. And they refinanced the bond into one bond, and we already paid it off.
Very good. No other questions?
And the RDA, now the residual, we are keeping it in the general fund revenue.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
expenses too.
One of the reasons is that so prior to, so there used to be redevelopment in California. So when that went away, the state legislature took away the redevelopment funds, they took them into what are called successor agencies. So usually when the council meets when we do our budget each year, the council sits as 3 different things, 3 different boards. One of them is the successor agency. We're working to basically close out the successor agency now because there are no further obligations that we have anymore. And so we need to close out those funds. That has to go through Fresno County. Actually they have like an oversight of all of the RDAs and then, or the successor agencies, and then we'll be able to close that out. So I know Alma's been working with Mike Noland as well on that process. So some of it is cleanup of our own books, but with the intention of then closing out those successor agencies so that, essentially that's completed as part of the RDA closure from the legislation change. And, what was that, 2012-ish, I want to say. It's prior to me coming to California. I know it's been a while. It's been part of it too. But one of the things Chairman Smith and I were talking about was maybe a different way for us to present this. I mean, this has traditionally been the way that we've presented it, but we can talk about maybe through tables, whether it's, we break it out by general fund. I know we look at this and see, we know the line items, we know their general fund line items, we know their water sales, things like that, but maybe just a way to summarize this and so that it's easier for the public to, tell where we're making those changes at. So I think that's something that we can
Summarize
work
the
on
budget
too.
adjustments on.
Yeah, well, because just from the, from providing more context to like, why are we making this change, or like, what's the net to the general fund at the end of it, right? So we're making, these many expenditure changes, these many
Yes.
revenue changes, what's the
Yes.
net in the general fund?
It's a good idea.
So
Okay.
something we were talking about too, so.
Mhm.
Something we can work on for maybe for the presentation to the council as well, just how a more readable format, even for the public too.
If you're going to do that, I'm just going to ask to keep it incredibly simple, just because I know that with the line items, it gets confusing, especially when you put it all together. I think especially councils, all that they're going to want to know is 95% of this is we're putting it from one pocket into a different pocket, but it's all the same thing. I think what they're wanting to know is breaking out, are we short? Not necessarily from the right pocket to the left pocket, but are we having to bring more money in from somewhere else? I think that's going to be the council's overall. I think that's probably what the public really wants to know too. I think that, transferring it from account A to account D, although we have to do it process wise, I think that's probably less interest in that. Like this body should still see it as it is. I think I like going through it this way, but
I think it's a good idea. In this report, the Department of Revenue and Expenses, we have on the last page, we have our total revenues and total expenses, how we budgeted the ending balance at the current to today, and we can have the variance. We can show the grand total numbers, how our revenue came up higher than anticipated and the expenditures a little higher than anticipated. Yes? Okay. Will do. Any other questions?
Very good. Thank you
So,
for putting this together. Can I get a motion?
motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the City Hall EOC project update with a staff report by City Manager Alexander Henderson.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. Purpose of this report is is informational, just to provide an update to the committee as well as to the public on activities that have taken place related to the purchase of or the acquisition of the building at 1600 Draper Street for the use of the Kingsburg City Hall and EOC, which we entered on June 18th into a purchase and sale agreement for that property. Since that time, staff has undertaken a comprehensive feasibility review intended to evaluate the physical condition of the property, identify potential environmental and accessibility concerns, confirm property boundaries and other site conditions, evaluate anticipated capital needs, and begin planning for the improvements and operational work necessary to transition City Hall operations to the facility. So the feasibility and due diligence review had a 60-day window that ended last Monday, August 17th. And during that time, we commissioned and reviewed several assessments, including a phase 1 environmental site assessment, a property condition assessment, review of the existing 54.4 kilowatt solar voltaic system, and an accessibility assessment, which is to identify potential ADA issues. And collectively, these reports provided staff and ultimately the city council with substantially more information regarding the condition of the property and its anticipated short and long-term needs for the purchase. There was generally the building is in good condition. And so there were no major concerns identified through any of those reports. Concurrently with the feasibility review, city staff has begun working with an architect to evaluate the building for its future use as City Hall. Because it currently functions as a professional office building and already contains office spaces, conference areas, restrooms, electrical infrastructure, data cabling, and other systems. Staff anticipates being able to limit tenant improvements that will directly support public-facing municipal operations and public meetings. We're working closely with the same architect that we worked with on the new construction design. That was Integrated Designs by Soman. So they were familiar with what we were looking for as part of that in terms of space needs, office needs, things like that. So they're just, we're working with them as part of the existing facility to help recreate that. We've created a comprehensive City Hall transition and move plan checklist in order to prepare for the actual move itself. That covers a number of areas surrounding the tenant improvements, needs for IT and telecommunications, there's existing furniture and equipment, security and access control, records and document relocation, departmental moves, utilities, everything that goes into a move of this nature. We review next steps in this process. The property acquisition transaction is set to close on Tuesday, September 1, 2026. At that time, the current owner will begin leasing back a portion of the property beginning that day. Christina and I actually met this morning with the members of the USDA regarding the $1 million grant that we received from Congressman Costa's office. So we've been working on that at the same time too, because originally it was, we thought we would be using it for new construction. So now it's just a matter of making sure that it's used for tenant improvements or other areas that they view as eligible. We tried to get them to basically just let us use it for a portion of the purchase of the existing building, because we thought that that would be simpler for everyone, but they didn't go for that. So we'll just use it on the actual tenant improvements. It's a reimbursement grant, so we will have to expend the dollars. They're going to be involved throughout the process as they are right now. So they'll review the bid package. They'll review our payables, basically everything related to the tenant improvement, regardless of whether or not it's related to the $1 million grant or not. They have some oversight of. So we'll be working with them throughout this. But I thought it was a worthwhile discussion that we had with them this morning. But we'll continue to keep this group and the public updated as things develop along the way. I would envision next steps will be us finalizing the architectural design package for the tenant improvements, ultimately, putting together a bid package that will come back to this group and then go out to bid. And then the city council will approve that before any contracts are awarded. But intention tonight again was just to provide a brief update. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you for the update. What are your thoughts on the design? I mean, what time? Your thoughts on what the timeline would look like for that?
For the tenant improvements?
Yeah.
I would imagine we'll have another draft back within the next 2 weeks. So if it kind of just depends upon where we land on if we think that has met our need. My hope from a timing standpoint is to hopefully by the end of this year have something, if out to bid, if not back for council consideration by the end of this year. So that then maybe we're looking at tenant improvements starting in the early part of 2027. I think that will coincide well with when the current tenant is probably going to be moved out. So a lot of that work can occur after that when the building is empty essentially. And then, we can hopefully then move in second quarter of 2027, but some of that will be a little dependent on the review turnaround from USDA. So I think some of their review and involvement could impact our timeline, but they were positive to work with this morning. And we had a couple of questions about the environmental from their standpoint, their NEPA requirements, but because this is essentially a tenant improvement, we're not expanding the building, we're not building new, we're not, really even if we do something in the parking lot, I think we might separate it out from this project so that it keeps that, concern off of or away from them. I don't think there's going to be too much of an environmental review on their end. So trying to shorten those timeframes as much as we can. But that's kind of a general outline for right now.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, and that was just informational. So our next item is other business. Is there anything for this committee?